They say immortality is a gift. I learned it was a curse, one carefully crafted by the man I'd loved across 9 lifetimes. The abbot's words still echo in my mind. The elixir comes in pairs. One grants eternal flesh, condemning its bearer to 10,000 tribulations. The other preserves the soul through endless reincarnations, each life draining fortune from the first. You, child, swallowed the mother pill. Your husband took the child pill and has been feeding on your destiny ever since. 300 years, 9 lifetimes, every reunion orchestrated, every betrayal premeditated. But now I know the truth, and I am going to make him pay for every single one. My husband found the elixir of immortality. He chose to give it to me. To repay this kindness, I've searched through the river of time for each of his reincarnations. In his first life, he was an impoverished scholar. I gave him silver for the imperial examinations, cared for his ailing mother whilst he was away. Yet when success crowned him, he married the chancellor's daughter, leaving me to wait 10 empty years. In his second life, he was a centurion. When enemy forces struck, I protected him, slaughtered his foes with my own hands. He used those military honors to wed a princess, then locked me in a lightless dungeon to torture at his leisure. Life after life, I wandered the mortal realm, never daring to forget the debt of that precious elixir, still seeking his reincarnations amongst the red dust of the world, until I met the abbot of the national temple. He told me, the elixir of immortality appears in pairs. One pill grants immortal flesh, eternal existence in this world. The other grants an immortal soul carrying memories of every lifetime through endless reincarnation. The former is the mother pill. Its bearer suffers 10,000 lifetimes of tribulation, yet gathers the fortune of heaven and earth. The latter is the child pill. When its bearer encounters the mother pill's keeper, they drain away that accumulated fortune, sometimes avoiding minor disasters, sometimes achieving magnificent success. The two are bound by cause and effect. Whenever the child pill bearer needs fortune, they will meet. Life after life, world without end. And the one who consumed the child pill, accumulating stolen destiny across lifetimes, will ultimately become fortune's chosen son, ascending to stand above all others. The abbot finished speaking slowly, closed his eyes, and resumed his sutras. The sound of Buddhist chanting filled the air with crystalline clarity. My fingertips turned ice cold. My entire body trembled. Lost memories flooded violently into my mind. Approximately 300 years ago, my husband Sebastian and I were an ordinary couple living in a small border town. That year, war broke out between 2 nations. We fled in all directions. When we were nearly dead from starvation, Sebastian found the elixir of immortality in the mountains. He didn't consume it himself. Instead, he fed it to me. Vivian, you are the one I love most in this life. You must survive, no matter what. If there is another life, I want to be husband and wife with you again. After speaking his final words, his strength gave out and he died. I held his corpse and wept until I fainted. When I opened my eyes again, my wounds had healed. The chest tightness and shortness of breath from hunger had vanished completely. I was reborn, my hair blacker, my complexion rosier than before. And all of this was Sebastian's gift to me. I buried Sebastian's body, remembering his dying words. I followed the refugee convoy northward. War raged everywhere. More and more people starved to death on the road. Though I remained just as hungry, my body showed no ill effects. I stood out conspicuously amongst the group. Some thought I'd hidden food. They bound me, interrogated me, beat me, even stripped me naked searching for provisions. But when my wounds inexplicably healed, they screamed that they'd seen a ghost. I kept changing groups. The outcome was always the same. I grew exhausted, weary, frightened, alone. I retreated deep into the mountains and hid in a cave. I endured the hunger, sitting motionless for 3 years. Finally, the war ended. Dynasties changed. Peace returned to the land. A hunter discovered me and brought me down from the mountain. I found surviving relatives and returned to my old home. After a few years of peaceful life, I turned 36, yet still looked like an 18-year-old girl with peach blossom skin. Noticing my relatives' confused and probing gazes, I knew I couldn't stay. I claimed poor health, and using the excuse of seeking my husband's remains for a proper burial, left my hometown. Traveling southward, I arrived at a small town in the River Delta region. Using my skills, I opened a small eatery. Life stabilized once more, and I began to miss my husband. I wondered how, amongst the vast sea of humanity, I might find his reincarnation. To my surprise, I met him very soon. Just as I was considering closing the eatery and relocating, 17-year-old Sebastian walked through my door with his mother. "Madam Proprietor, I am a scholar traveling to the capital for the examinations. I've exhausted my traveling funds, please. Have mercy, give my mother something to eat." I recognized him instantly, sword-like eyebrows, starry eyes, a straight nose, thin lips, a taut jawline. He looked exactly like his previous life. Even the tiny mole on his nose bridge was in the same position. I suppressed my excitement and welcomed them both inside. Not only did I give them free meals, I prepared a room for them to lodge in. In this lifetime, his name was Edmund. His family was poor, his father long dead, his mother chronically ill. Yet he possessed exceptional talent. At 3, he knew 1,000 characters. At 5, he mastered poetry and literature. At 12, he'd already passed the first examination level. No, he'd passed the provincial examination and become a candidate scholar. He wanted to take the imperial examinations in the capital, but couldn't bear to leave his mother, so he'd brought her along. Unfortunately, his mother's condition worsened during the journey, consuming all their money just to stabilize her illness. Without funds, how can I take the examination? If I miss this session, I'll have to wait another 3 years. But I cannot abandon my mother, since ancient times. Loyalty and filial piety have been difficult to reconcile. Edmund sighed, supporting himself on his knees, his face full of worry. My heart surged as I looked at him. "I have a way to help you. Marry my niece as your wife. She can provide traveling funds and will care for your mother in your absence." Edmund froze. "This we haven't even met." I smiled behind my hand. "Tomorrow I'll arrange for you to meet." The next day, I removed my old age disguise and appeared before Edmund as an 18-year-old. Edmund nodded his agreement. Edmund and I were married. After our wedding night, I gave him all the silver I'd saved over the years. Then I took my mother-in-law back to the ancestral home. Afterwards, I resumed my life as a daughter-in-law of the household, managing domestic affairs. Serving my mother-in-law, 10 years passed in a flash. I received not a single word from Edmund. After my mother-in-law passed away peacefully, I shouldered my bundle and traveled to the capital to find my husband. Upon arrival, I made enquiries and discovered the truth. 10 years earlier, Edmund had topped the imperial examinations. The chancellor had immediately claimed him as a son-in-law. He was now a third-rank official at court. Furious, I blocked Edmund's carriage outside his mansion, demanding to know why he'd broken his word. Edmund's expression didn't change. "You claim to be my original wife. Have you a marriage certificate to prove it?" I was speechless. We'd merely performed a simple ceremony back then. Where would a marriage certificate come from? Lady Edmund sneered. "Heard some gossip about my husband's origins and fabricated lies to claim kinship." How ridiculous! I swallowed the bitterness in my mouth. "Fine, don't acknowledge me these 10 years. I gave you all my earnings to treat your mother's illness. Now I am penniless. Could you at least give me funds to return home?" Lady Edmund laughed coldly. "Oh, so you want to extort money, husband. Do you think we should give it?" Edmund brushed his sleeve. "If everyone did this, wouldn't society descend into chaos? Send her away." I lingered in the capital for several days. When I failed to see Edmund again, my heart turned to dead ashes, and I left without money. I could only rely on walking. Fortunately, my immortal body meant I couldn't starve or exhaust myself to death, so I actually made good progress, passing through city after city. I encountered a female knight-errant. She examined my face and bones, declaring me a martial arts prodigy, and wanted to take me as her apprentice. Since I was a rootless drifter anyway, I became her disciple. learning martial arts and performing for money, finding joy amidst hardship. 20 years later, a new emperor ascended the throne and used the chancellor as a sacrificial offering. The chancellor's 9 familial degrees were arrested, including his son-in-law Edmund, who was imprisoned and sentenced to exile 3,000 miles away. The day before leaving the capital, Edmund wrote a confession in prison and slit his own throat. That confession eventually circulated publicly, claiming he'd been forced to marry the chancellor's daughter, that he'd wronged his original wife. It said, "If there is another life, I will find my wife and make amends for this lifetime's wrongs." At that time, I just buried my master. My heart was painful and desolate, hearing the marketplace gossip. Ripples stirred in my heart once more. I seemed to have found meaning for continuing to exist in this world. I had to find his reincarnation. After my master died, I didn't want to wander anymore. I returned to the border town. All my former relatives and friends had passed away. Disguised as a man, I opened a martial arts school to make a living. Another 20 years rushed by. War erupted again. As the martial arts school master's nephew, I enlisted in the army. In the military camp, I encountered Sebastian's second reincarnation. This time his name was Theodore. Born into a wealthy gentry family, skilled in martial arts, already a centurion in the army, I happened to be assigned under his command. He saw through my disguise but didn't expose me instead. He promoted me to deputy, keeping me constantly by his side at the time. I thought it remarkable. Looking back now, with memories of previous lives, how could he not have recognized me after several battles? I discovered Theodore's martial skills weren't particularly advanced. One might even call them mediocre. Theodore was quite frank about it. My father bought this centurion position. He had passionate patriotic fervor, but was born at the wrong time peace reigned. No wars to fight. Now that foreign enemies have invaded and I've encountered this opportunity, he has forced me onto the battlefield. He paused, tugging at my sleeve and shaking it back and forth. "Good sister, I can see your martial arts are absolutely first-rate from now on. Your younger brother will rely on you completely." 15-year-old Theodore's gaze was clear, his eyes full of worship and affection. I'd meant to repay his gift of the elixir anyway. What reason did I have to refuse? From then on, I protected his life and killed enemies in his stead. I bore the flashing blades and swords. All military honors went to him. In this lifetime, he seemed particularly skilled at sweet words, constantly doing things to make me laugh. He coaxed me until I was dizzy, and we secretly began sharing a tent. 2 years later, the enemy forces were repelled. Our army captured 2 additional cities. A great victory and return. Theodore had accumulated the most military honors and was made a general. Returning to court for an imperial audience, Theodore knelt in the great hall and used his accumulated honors to request marriage to the princess. The emperor agreed and immediately decreed the marriage. I cornered Theodore in his mansion. Before my accusatory words could leave my mouth, he spoke first. "My military achievements are too prominent. Only by marrying the princess and becoming an idle prince consort can I preserve myself." My throat tightened. "Then what about me?" Theodore glanced at me, frowning. "We've already enjoyed 2 years of conjugal relations. Isn't that enough for you?" Perhaps from time on the battlefield he'd absorbed an aura of killing intent. My breathing destabilized. I slapped him across the face, hysterical. "You promised to marry me as your wife. If you dare marry that wretched princess, I'll kill you." Theodore looked stunned from the blow. When he recovered, he reverted to his previous fawning manner. "Good sister, I was wrong. All right, of course I want to marry you. Wait for me, I'll go to the palace right now and break off the engagement." I thought he'd had an epiphany and obediently waited in the room. But I'd been drugged somehow. When I woke again, I was already in a pitch-black dungeon. The prince consort's life didn't seem pleasant. Theodore frequently came to torture me as an outlet for his frustrations. He knew my wounds would heal, so he used every extreme method imaginable to abuse me. Each time I was left covered in wounds, flesh mangled. The worst occasion, I slept for 3 full days, but when I woke again, my body had completely recovered. Later, Theodore stopped coming. The servants who brought food and water stopped coming too. I lay in the dark dungeon, knowing neither time nor season. taking no food or water, yet endlessly alive. I don't know how long passed. The dungeon door opened. Someone entered. Good heavens. There is actually someone imprisoned beneath the previous dynasty's princess mansion. Still alive? Who are you? How did you end up here? I blinked my eyes, which streamed tears from the candlelight's irritation, contemplating his question. Who was I? I seemed to have forgotten. I shook my head blankly. She is simple-minded. Take her out first. We'll sort it later. Dynasties had changed again. The new emperor was benevolent. I was assigned to a duke's mansion as a maid cleaning chamber pots. Chamber pots stank terribly, yet I scrubbed them energetically. When I cleaned them well, they added chicken drumsticks to my rice. I seemed terrified of hunger. So terrified one day, as I was about to clean the noble's chamber pots, I heard faint crying. Searching everywhere, I actually found a newborn infant in one of the chamber pots. Terrified, I shouted at the top of my lungs throughout the mansion. The duke sent people to retrieve the infant from the chamber pot and summoned physicians to treat it. Later, I heard it was a concubine's son. The duchess couldn't bear sons herself. Jealous of the concubine, she'd switched the concubine's son with a baby girl. Then she'd thrown the son into a chamber pot to live or die on his own. She hadn't expected me to discover and save him. I received a substantial reward, but before I could celebrate for long, the duchess found fault with me and dismissed me from the mansion. I had no memories. My mind was confused and muddled. Before long, I was swindled out of all my silver and reduced to begging. After begging for several years, I was sold by human traffickers to a brothel. I knew nothing, spoke incoherently and foolishly. No clients requested me. The madam beat me to vent her anger, then made me work as a menial servant to pay off debt. Many years passed. The brothel grew increasingly successful. Nobles from the capital frequently visited. One day I heard that the duke's heir had arrived. My heart stirred. Remembering the infant I'd saved years ago, I rushed forward to look. With just one glance, I remembered events from many, many years before. I remembered Sebastian, who'd given me the elixir of immortality. I lived to repay that debt, to repay Sebastian's kindness. That night, the brothel mysteriously caught fire. I rushed desperately into the flames and dragged out the unconscious heir. Unfortunately, though I was burned beyond recognition, the heir still choked to death on thick smoke. I felt terribly guilty. Having finally remembered some memories, I still hadn't saved him. With the heir burned to death, the brothel was forced to close. I became a street wanderer once more. This time bald from the fire, someone said I looked like a nun. So I went to a nunnery and took vows. After 10 years as a nun, fearing people would notice I didn't age, I grew my hair back and returned to secular life. Descending the mountain, I accidentally saved a physician. He asked what reward I wanted. My heart stirred and I dropped to my knees with a thud. This humble woman is a return to secular nun. I descended the mountain hoping to learn life-saving skills. I beg you, Master, to teach me without reservation. From then on, I began learning medicine from my master. Over 20 years passed quickly. I buried my master's bones, shouldered my traveling pack, and practiced medicine everywhere, gaining some renown. Because I was proficient in both medical arts and Buddhist teachings, people called me the healing bodhisattva. Several days ago, a young novice from the National Temple found me. He said the abbot's vital energy had deteriorated overnight and begged me to provide treatment. So I carried my medicine chest up the mountain. The moment he saw me, the abbot dismissed everyone and spoke those words. And I awakened as from a dream, remembering everything from these years. What I'd considered a debt of gratitude was merely an elaborate deception. No wonder I always encountered Sebastian's reincarnations. No wonder my fate was always so troubled. The suffering I'd endured, the wrongs I'd experienced, all had become nourishment for Sebastian's reincarnations to change their fate. And he remembered it all. Always remembered. I swallowed the metallic sweetness rising in my mouth, clenching my trembling fingertips. I refuse to accept this, Abbot. Is there a way to break this curse? The sutra chanting stopped. The abbot's eyes snapped open. There is. Emerging from the room, The young novice approached. Female Bodhisattva, how is he? I shook my head. The master has passed into nirvana. Please accept my condolences. Master, the young novice rushed inside, weeping. I was about to turn away when a clear, cold voice sounded behind me. May I ask, are you the renowned physician Vivian, the healing bodhisattva? My body froze abruptly. It was his voice. I composed myself and turned to look. It was indeed Sebastian's face, compared to previous incarnations. This face radiated even more noble bearing, from impoverished scholar to gentry son to centurion to duke's heir, and now what identity would he have this time? I dare not accept bodhisattva. I am Vivian White, merely a wandering country physician. I nodded lightly, my tone distant and guarded. The physician is too modest. This prince came to the national temple firstly to visit the abbot on behalf of Father Emperor, and secondly, hearing the temple had summoned you, hoped to try his luck. His tone was humble, his expression slightly worried, nothing like his demeanor in previous lives. Reincarnation truly was miraculous. Even carrying memories of previous lives, he could completely transform into another person. This prince's Father Emperor. This time he'd been reborn as an imperial prince. Unfortunately, his accumulated fortune still wasn't sufficient. I looked at his legs dangling uselessly in the wheelchair, frowning. Does your highness wish me to treat your legs? His eyes brightened somewhat. Indeed, this prince trusts in the physician's medical skills, an attendant interjected. If you can make Prince Nicholas stand again, you'll be richly rewarded. I turned towards the wailing meditation room. After the abbot's funeral concludes, I'll return with you to your mansion to treat you. The abbot's funeral was conducted with great ceremony. It took 14 full days to complete all the rituals before the relics were placed in the pagoda. Prince Nicholas and I lodged in adjacent meditation rooms, coming and going. We frequently encountered each other. I could sense that each time I saw Prince Nicholas, something within my body seemed to surge outward. It was fortune. I was certain that once I began treating Nicholas's leg condition, he would stand again, and my misfortune would descend once more. Fortunately, this time I had the abbot's help. The night before leaving the national temple, I slipped into the pagoda and took the relics the abbot had left behind. Dr. White, this is your room. The prince's bedchamber is right next door. The prince specifically instructed that you be given the room closest to his. The prince truly treats you differently. Two maids giggled teasingly. I sneered inwardly, differently indeed. Staying close made it easier to drain my fortune. Unfortunately, ever since I donned the abbot's relics, that sensation of internal depletion had vanished. Combined with daily recitation of sutras, my mind grew increasingly clear. I must see what sort of woman brother Nicholas has brought back. A delicate voice suddenly rang out, turning. I glimpsed a flash of tender yellow in the distance. A maid glanced over and quickly warned, Dr. White, that is Princess Charlotte, daughter of the regent prince. She has a pampered temperament and adores Prince Nicholas deeply. Be careful what you say. As she spoke, Princess Charlotte crossed the threshold, staring directly at me. The maid introduced me. This is Dr. White, known amongst common folk as the healing bodhisattva. She is a renowned physician the prince brought back to treat his leg condition. Princess Charlotte curled her lip. Such a young and beautiful physician, did she really come to the mansion just to diagnose illness? Seeing her face clearly, images flashed through my mind. An acquaintance we'd last met when she was under 10 years old, she wouldn't remember me. Then her father, the regent prince. How interesting. Princess Charlotte grew uncomfortable under my gaze and put her hands on her hips. What are you staring at, tell me? What are you really scheming, pretending to be a physician to enter the mansion? I withdrew my gaze and smiled. Are you perhaps Prince Nicholas's consort? Charlotte froze, her cheeks flushing crimson. Not yet. My tone turned cold. Since you aren't his consort, what authority do you have to interrogate a guest of the prince's mansion? Charlotte's eyes widened instantly. How dare you? You dare humiliate this princess. Someone slap her mouth. At her command, servants behind her moved to surround me. The maids panicked. Dr. White, The princess isn't someone to provoke. Quickly apologize. Hemph. Apologize never. But settling old scores, that was possible. My memories had fully returned. The martial arts I'd learned weren't for nothing. A few mere servants. I placed one hand on the table, kicked sideways, each strike landing squarely in a chest. Servants toppled in a dark mass. My toes touched the ground as I reached forward. Whilst Charlotte's eyes widened in terror, one hand grasped her collar, and my body leveraged around to her back. My other hand formed a claw, gripping her throat, and I sneered. "Princess, do you still wish to slap my mouth?" Charlotte's chest heaved violently. "You dare hold this princess hostage. I'll kill you, kill you. It seems the princess hasn't grasped the situation." I kicked the back of her knee. Thud. Charlotte fell to her knees. Silence fell all around. Prince Nicholas's cold reprimand suddenly sounded behind me. "What are you all doing?" The sound of rolling wheels approached from far to near. I released my grip. Charlotte clutched her throat and threw herself at Nicholas's feet. "Brother Nicholas, she bullied and humiliated me. Quickly have her arrested." I looked calmly at Prince Nicholas. He looked back at me, a barely perceptible viciousness flashing in his eyes. Of course, to secure the regent prince's support, he had to win Princess Charlotte's heart. If I'd cured his legs at the National Temple, he would abandon me now just as in previous lives. Unfortunately, his legs weren't healed yet. He had to endure. Prince Nicholas gently stroked Charlotte's hair, coaxing, "Don't behave childishly. Dr. White is someone I invited to the mansion to treat my leg condition." Charlotte shot up, her face incredulous. "Brother Nicholas, you are taking her side over mine?" Prince Nicholas looked helpless. "It is not that, it is. You've simply changed your heart. You promised you'd always protect me, told me to wait until you'd healed your legs and you'd request an imperial marriage decree. She is so young, how could she possibly be a renowned physician? You are lying to me. You brought her back for purposes that have nothing to do with treating illness. I won't wait for you anymore, and I won't let Father help you either. I hate you." After her hysterical outburst, Charlotte turned and ran. Nicholas's face twitched several times, his eyes unable to suppress his fury. I sneered inwardly. "Sebastian. Oh, Sebastian, the chess piece you'd positioned for years had just slipped from your control. It must feel terrible, doesn't it?" And this was only the beginning. I examined Prince Nicholas's legs, congenitally disabled. With my current medical skills, I had no confidence I could cure them. I spoke frankly. Prince Nicholas didn't seem concerned. "Dr. White, simply treat them as best you can. I'll cooperate fully. The medical fees won't be inadequate." My eyebrows rose slightly. Of course, he relied on draining fortune, not actual medical skill anyway. Still, if he wanted treatment, I'd treat him. Only a fool refuses money. I prepared internal medicines and external poultices for him. Each day I personally decocted medicine, administered it, and applied treatments, keeping myself terribly busy. Half a month passed in a flash. Prince Nicholas's legs showed no improvement whatsoever. He seemed to be growing anxious. Sometimes I heard him muttering quietly, "This shouldn't be happening after all this time. There should be some reaction." Attendants consoled him. "Your Highness, don't be anxious. Wait a bit longer." He couldn't control the malevolent expression appearing on his face. "How can I not be anxious? I hear Charlotte has begun considering marriage prospects, and my various imperial brothers are all showing keen interest. If I don't recover quickly, the prize within my grasp will fly away." That day, having just changed his external poultice, Prince Nicholas suddenly embraced me from behind. "Dr. White, I've observed all your dedicated care these days tonight. Will you stay?" Attempting to accelerate fortune draining through intimacy. I immediately broke free, stepped back after turning, my voice icy. "Your Highness, please conduct yourself properly. This commoner is already married." "Well, what?" Prince Nicholas's eyes widened. "Who is he?" I raised my eyes to look directly at him. "His name was Sebastian. He was my late husband." Prince Nicholas froze. I continued. Actually, your highness bears a striking resemblance to my late husband. But I know clearly that your highness is not him. My late husband showed me great kindness. I cannot fail to uphold proper wifely conduct. Prince Nicholas grew frantic. No, no, I am. He stopped mid-sentence. I tilted my head. Your highness is what? Could your highness mean to say you have some connection to my late husband? But my late husband was merely an ordinary commoner. Prince Nicholas turned his head away. I was born into the imperial family. Naturally, I wouldn't know your late husband. You may go. Yes, the instant I turned away, my face turned cold. Time for the next step, several days before the winter hunt. Everyone in the capital was discussing this imminent, grand event. I rushed into Prince Nicholas's room carrying a bowl of medicine, shouting joyfully, Your Highness, I've found an ancient prescription. Your leg condition can be cured. Prince Nicholas's eyes widened. Truly, truly. I nodded emphatically. An attendant's eyes reddened with excitement. Wonderful, the prince can participate in the winter hunt too. Prince Nicholas gritted his teeth. The winter hunt, of course I'll participate. With that, he snatched the medicine bowl from my hands and drained it in one gulp. That night, agonized cries echoed from Prince Nicholas's room. Ah, my legs hurt so much. Ah, attendants came to fetch me. I asked calmly, Have His Highness's legs had any sensation these past years? The attendant's eyes lit up. Never, this truly means they're healing. After dismissing the attendant, I stuffed my ears and continued sleeping. Prince Nicholas suffered for 2 full days. On the 3rd day, he actually managed to stand by supporting himself against the wall. The day before the winter hunt, Prince Nicholas could take 2 steps forward. Riding horses and shooting arrows, however, impossible. Yet he stubbornly insisted on going, not to hunt. I want them to see that I can stand, that I am someone worth following, someone with a future. His calculations were excellent. Princess Charlotte would attend the winter hunt as well. He wanted Charlotte to see that he'd brought me to the mansion for medical treatment, to resolve the misunderstanding between them. He'd probably even request an imperial marriage decree on the spot. He just didn't know that on that very day, I would drag him into hell. The day of the winter hunt, as soon as Prince Nicholas departed with his attendants, I changed into men's clothing and took a shortcut on horseback. At hunting grounds perimeter, I rendered a lone guard unconscious, exchanged clothes with him, and infiltrated the grounds. I'd made enquiries beforehand. The hunt required numerous guards, many transferred from various locations who didn't know one another. It was perfectly normal. At the auspicious hour, the capital's nobility knelt to greet the emperor emerging from his tent. The emperor's gaze immediately found Prince Nicholas in his wheelchair, his brow furrowing slightly. Fifth son, what possessed you to come here today? Given your condition, you should exercise caution. Prince Nicholas's expression remained serene. Reporting to Father Emperor, your son came to share joyous news. The emperor's eyebrow lifted. Oh, what news might that be? Prince Nicholas's gaze swept across those present, settling on Princess Charlotte with a tender smile. I beg Father Emperor's indulgence for a small surprise. Once Father Emperor claims the first prize, your son will add icing to the cake. Ha ha! Excellent, depart! The emperor laughed heartily, mounted his horse, and charged forth first. The other nobles followed. The grounds emptied swiftly, leaving only the accompanying ladies. Princess Charlotte saw Prince Nicholas approaching and turned to leave with a pout. Prince Nicholas's eyes followed her desperately as he wheeled after her. When they reached a secluded spot, he grasped Charlotte's sleeve. Dear sister, don't be cross anymore. Today I'll prove to you that I truly invited Dr. White to the mansion for medical treatment. Princess Charlotte jerked her sleeve away. How will you prove it? Can you actually stand up or something? Prince Nicholas smiled without speaking, gazing steadily at her. Princess Charlotte immediately understood, covering her mouth in shock. Really, really? Prince Nicholas's eyes brimmed with affection. Soon you'll know. When the time comes, I'll request Father Emperor decree our marriage. You mustn't refuse. Princess Charlotte lowered her head shyly, then looked up again, eyes widening. What about that white woman? She humiliated me terribly. You must let me have my revenge. A cruel arc curved Prince Nicholas's lips. That is simple enough. Once my legs are healed, I'll have her seized and locked in a secret chamber. You can vent your anger however you please. Princess Charlotte circled behind Prince Nicholas, leaning forward to embrace his neck. Brother Nicholas, you are so wicked, but I like it. After we're married, Father will certainly support you wholeheartedly. Our best days lie ahead. A pair of vile creatures. I withdrew my gaze and hurried past the patrol route to the stables. Seizing the reins, I mounted swiftly. A flying insect emerged from my sleeve, darting rapidly in one direction. I spurred the horse and followed deep in the forest. The regent prince sat steadily upon his mount, aiming at a wild deer. I reined my horse to a halt at his side rear position, mirroring his movements, nocking an arrow, drawing the bow, releasing. Whoosh! An arrow sang through the air. Both the wild deer and the regent prince fell simultaneously. The regent prince tumbled from his horse, clutching his arrow-pierced right leg, bellowing in fury. Who shot me, seeking death? I wheeled my horse about and charged deeper into the forest. Shortly after, dense hoofbeats and arrow fire sounded behind me. I pressed myself tightly against the horse's back, gripping its flanks with my legs. The horse flew past trees toward a cliff's edge. Ho! I reined the horse to a halt, leapt from the saddle, and jumped off the precipice. After several tumbles, my head struck a boulder. I lost consciousness. When I awoke, it seemed to be dusk. I'd fallen into a tree canopy. My clothes were tattered and blood-stained, but my wounds had healed. I reached to touch the small pouch sewn into my undergarment. Good. The abbot's relics remained secure. I leapt down from the tree, determined my direction, and departed swiftly. 3 days later, I reached the capital's outskirts. After treating several common folk, I exchanged their gratitude for clean clothes. Once properly arranged, I entered the city. Without needing to make deliberate inquiries, I circulated through tea houses and eateries, learning everything about the winter hunt incident exactly as I'd predicted. The regent prince had injured his right leg at the hunting grounds. The emperor immediately dispatched accompanying physicians for treatment. When the physician cut open the trouser leg, he discovered a flame-shaped marking and asked curiously, "What is this?" The regent prince answered casually, "A birthmark. Everyone in our family is born with it." The physician found this remarkably curious and couldn't help examining it more closely. Since the regent prince's injury wasn't severe and the assassin had already perished falling off the cliff, the investigation reached a dead end. After the hunt concluded, the emperor claimed first prize, following congratulations from assembled officials. He recalled Prince Nicholas's promised celebratory news. He inquired, "Fifth son, can you reveal this joyous matter now?" All eyes converged upon him. Prince Nicholas's voice trembled with excitement. Your son can stand." With that, he braced himself against the wheelchair's armrests, rose to his feet, and slowly stepped forward several paces. Everyone exclaimed in astonishment. The emperor rejoiced greatly, repeating "excellent" 3 times. Prince Nicholas spoke again. "Reporting to Father Emperor, your son has long admired Princess Charlotte, previously being disabled. I dared not voice my feelings, fearing I'd delay her prospects. Now that I've recovered, I beseech Father Emperor's blessing." The emperor's eyebrow arched. He turned to ask the regent prince's opinion. The regent prince frowned. "I have only this one daughter. I am rather reluctant." Princess Charlotte grew anxious. "Father, your daughter is 17 already. I am willing." Everyone laughed. The regent prince looked embarrassed. "A grown daughter cannot be kept at home. Since Charlotte has spoken thus, what reason have I to obstruct?" The emperor chuckled twice and immediately decreed their marriage. Just as everyone celebrated, Prince Nicholas suddenly collapsed rigid, shouting, "My leg burning." The emperor immediately summoned physicians. After Nicholas was carried into a tent, hearing his continued cries of burning pain, they hastily cut open his trousers to examine him. They received quite a shock. Prince Nicholas's right leg also bore a flame-shaped birthmark. Recalling the regent prince's earlier words, the physician broke into cold sweat, yet dared not deceive the emperor. He crawled forward and reported everything. The emperor immediately dispatched investigators. They discovered that everyone in the regent prince's clan indeed possessed flame birthmarks. Recalling how Prince Nicholas had sought to marry Princess Charlotte and how readily the regent prince had agreed, everything indicated that Prince Nicholas was the regent prince's son. Their actions were aimed at usurping the throne. This was treason. The emperor raged, immediately imprisoning the regent prince's 9 familial degrees along with Prince Nicholas, sentencing them to execution. The regent prince's clan was too numerous for the imperial prison alone. They were distributed amongst other facilities. Since collapsing that day, Nicholas had been unable to stand again. Indeed, everything below his neck was paralyzed. Seeing he posed no threat, they confined him to a small prison. I broke him out in a concealed mountain cave outside the city. I removed Nicholas's black hood. He seemed unsurprised, glaring at me through gritted teeth. My leg never had any birthmark. These past days only you touched my legs. It was you. I acknowledged it. Yes, every external poultice I applied contained coloring agents. The medicine I later gave you was specially formulated. It allowed you to stand briefly by consuming your life force. Nicholas's pupils flickered violently. How did you know the regent prince had a flame birthmark on his leg? My eyebrow lifted. I saw him 8 years ago. My master saved him, but he murdered her. He is my enemy. 8 years ago. His voice cut off abruptly. Nicholas's face flushed crimson. I tilted my head. 10 years ago, I looked exactly like this. Have you forgotten you once gave me the elixir of immortality, my dear husband? Nicholas's expression transformed dramatically. He hastily denied it. I am not your husband. You've mistaken me for someone else. I sneered. Refugee scholar, centurion, duke's heir, and now imperial prince. Reincarnation after reincarnation, changing fate each time. You paid no price whatsoever, whilst I endured endless suffering you yourself inflicted. Sebastian, you must be quite pleased with yourself. Sebastian clenched his jaw, refusing to admit anything. I continued. Unfortunately, heaven has eyes. I encountered the Abbot, a compassionate master who couldn't bear watching me suffer the world's tribulations. He revealed the method to break the curse. You can never harm me again. Sebastian's pupils constricted sharply. He couldn't help crying out, Impossible! How could such a divine elixir have a counter method? I smiled. Is that so? Sebastian's face turned deathly pale instantly. He shouted unwillingly, Why, I was one step away from becoming fortune's chosen son. Every subsequent life would have brought wealth and nobility. How did it become like this? What is it? What is the counter method? I was quite satisfied with his reaction. I rose with a smile. Buddha said, Some things cannot be spoken. How should you die? Why not leave you here to starve, Hiss? Or perhaps wild beasts will devour you. We'll see how your fate plays out until the next lifetime. I turned and departed. Sebastian panicked completely. Vivian White, don't leave. I beg you give me a swift death, a swift death. I didn't look back. I walked beyond Sebastian's sight and stopped. Of course I wouldn't actually leave him here alone. What if someone rescued him? I remained near the cave, listening as Sebastian's voice gradually weakened, watching wolves enter the cave to tear and devour. 3 days later, something strange surged deep within my body as though something was flooding inward. Walking into the cave, I found Sebastian beyond dead. I dusted my hands and returned to the city. Under cover of night, I infiltrated Prince Nicholas's mansion. Digging 3 feet down, I excavated the silver I'd previously buried. Nicholas had paid substantial medical fees, enough for comfortable living for some time. The next day, shouldering my bundle, I prepared to leave the city. Suddenly, a group blocked my path, led by a pale, effeminate man. Young lady, are you the healing bodhisattva Dr. White, who previously treated patients at Prince Nicholas's mansion? I stepped back warily. And you are? The man raised an orchid finger and smiled. I am the head eunuch serving Her Majesty the Empress. Her Majesty heard you cured the commoner Nicholas's leg condition, and wishes to engage you at great expense to travel to Clearwater to treat Her Majesty's mother. I raised an eyebrow. Cured? I did indeed make him stand, but I never saw him afterwards. How can you claim I cured him? The man waved dismissively. Her Majesty has investigated everything. When Nicholas was at the mansion, he clutched his legs, crying in pain. The next day he could walk. Regardless of what happened later, based on this alone, no physician in the capital could achieve such results. Simply go and examine her. Whether you can treat her or not, the reward will be substantial. With that, he gently lifted the lid of a chest carried by attendants. It was filled with neatly stacked gold ingots. All of this is Her Majesty's gift to you. I nodded dumbly. I'll go. Was this what fortune-blessed opportunities felt like? The master truly hadn't deceived me. Initially, when I asked the abbot how to break the curse, he'd said, breaking it centers on the word break itself. The child pill-bearer seeks to change fate through reincarnation, desiring to become fortune's chosen son, ascending above all others. You must shatter his fortune, crush his ambitions, cast him down from grace. Do this repeatedly, and the fortune stolen from you through 10,000 lifetimes of suffering will return entirely to you. In this lifetime, Nicholas had fallen from imperial prince to prisoner. His fortune of changed fate was shattered. He died because of me, returning a portion of fortune, but it still wasn't enough. I would find his reincarnation again and again, trampling him into dust each time. Until death itself ceased, I arrived in Clearwater as promised. I discovered the Empress's mother had no physical illness. Her children had all gone to the capital to serve as officials. She herself couldn't bear to leave her hometown yet. Missed her children, prolonged longing had made her ill. I volunteered to remain and keep the elderly lady company. Truth be told, I was far older than she, with considerably more life experience, and understood Buddhist teachings besides. The old lady and I were kindred spirits from our first meeting. Her spirits improved day by day. Upon learning this, the Empress sent several more chests of large gold ingots. I remained in Clearwater for over 10 years. The old lady perceived my difference. She didn't broadcast it. Instead, on her deathbed, she bequeathed all her family property to me, urging me to live well. I was profoundly grateful and carefully maintained the old estate. Several years later, turmoil engulfed all lands. War erupted again. This time, I went directly to a mountain peak, sealing everything I could carry: money, jewelry, antiques inside a cave. I became a mountain hermit, waiting only for peace to return before re-emerging. Unexpectedly, this war continued for nearly 10 years without ceasing. During that decade, I casually saved some people, who then saved others. Person saved person saved person. As the population grew, they began constructing buildings. Within years, a settlement of structures arose atop the mountain named Cludris Manor Transcendent, avoiding worldly conflicts. I became the Manor Lord. My 10 chief disciples each possessed unique abilities. For an extended period, Cloudrest Manor became a place everyone in the chaotic world aspired to reach. Sebastian appeared during this time. My second disciple, who managed the manor's martial forces, brought a 7-year-old boy before me enthusiastically. Manor Lord, this child is a martial arts prodigy. He learned my sword techniques after seeing them just once. Looking at that familiar face and those terrified eyes, I curved my lips. Let me speak with him privately. A martial arts prodigy, I severed his hand and foot tendons, cut out his tongue, disfigured his face. After several days, claiming I'd rescued him outside, I assigned him to clean chamber pots at the manor. As for the martial arts prodigy, I never mentioned him again. My second disciple tactfully ceased inquiring. Sebastian cleaned chamber pots for several years before finally committing suicide. Unable to endure it longer, my fortune swelled somewhat more shortly after. The war finally ended. The new emperor personally came to offer terms, promising everyone a bright future. My 10 chief disciples and I deliberated. We all felt one couldn't fight against overwhelming power. The 10 disciples all accepted court positions. I looked at the remarkably beautiful emperor and demanded his empress position. The emperor treated me exceptionally well. I enjoyed several years of conjugal bliss. But this immortal body apparently couldn't bear children. Under pressure, the emperor filled his harem. After a decade of palace intrigues, I grew truly weary and planned to fake my death and escape. Just as I was devising methods, I encountered Sebastian's reincarnation again. This time, he was the top imperial examination scholar again. Several established ministerial families all coveted him as a son-in-law. His future prospects were immeasurable. I drugged him with an aphrodisiac. I fabricated evidence of violation, then used suicide to prove my innocence. Sebastian was sentenced to death by dismemberment for desecrating the Empress Dowager. I successfully escaped on execution day I attended. It was profoundly satisfying. I resumed wandering the world. With fortune attending me, I consistently lived well even during chaotic times. I suffered not the slightest hardship. A century passed in the blink of an eye. During that period, I encountered Sebastian's reincarnation 3 times. The 3rd time, he was an abandoned infant missing an arm. I'd seen his infant form before. I knew his eyes too well. I remained by his side, waiting for his life to end. The moment he drew his last breath, something within me seemed to dissipate. I calculated Sebastian had reincarnated 9 times. The abbot once said, 9 grades of rebirth bring liberation to all beings. Could I be liberated as well? I sliced my finger. Blood flowed freely. The wound didn't heal for ages. My appearance aged with time's passage. I peacefully accepted all this, living through my final century as an ordinary person. During this period, I never again encountered Sebastian's reincarnation. Sensing my lifespan nearing its end, I returned to the former national temple. Though no longer the national temple, it remained a monastery. I returned the abbot's relics. The relics, having accompanied me for centuries, emanated 7-colored radiance. The temple's abbot reverently enshrined them with trepidation. I died. The king of hell said my fortune was too abundant. Even Mengpo's amnesia soup couldn't erase my memories. He and his celestial superiors deliberated extensively, ultimately allowing me to reincarnate with my memories intact. But I couldn't tell anyone about my past lives, or I'd be dragged back to the underworld. I immediately agreed reincarnation. I don't know how many years after death, but the scene before me differed completely from before. A beautiful woman lifted me up. Darling, look, our daughter's eyes are rolling about. Doesn't it look like she is thinking, what kind of family is this? A handsome man took me. Sweet daughter, your father here is the wealthiest man in River City. From now on, you need only enjoy blessings. I blinked. Wealthiest man. Did that mean what I thought it meant? This story ends here. Don't let gratitude become your shackles. Her entire first half of life was ruined by the idea of repaying a debt. Someone gave her a pill on their deathbed, and she felt obliged to sacrifice 300 years in return. Does that sound like a fair trade? True kindness never demands repayment spanning lifetimes. When gratitude requires endless sacrifice, 9 times out of 10, it is just emotional blackmail dressed up as duty.